In 1945, Winston Churchill called one man the greatest general of World War II. It wasn't Patton. It wasn't Eisenhower. It wasn't Montgomery. It was a man you have never heard of. And that was on purpose. May 1942. Burma. 100,000 British and Indian soldiers are running for their lives. They are starving. They have no boots. Their feet are rotting off. Behind them, the Japanese Imperial Army, the most feared fighting force on Earth, is hunting them down. In the last 5 months, Japan has conquered everything. Singapore, the Philippines, Hong Kong, Malaya. The British Empire, 300 years old, has collapsed in 70 days. And now they are about to invade India. If India falls, 400 million people fall under fascism. The entire Allied war machine in Asia dies. The British army is broken, leaderless, humiliated. They need a miracle. Instead, London sends them a failure. A 50-year-old general who had just been defeated. A man his own bosses called too old, too slow, too ordinary. A man the American media openly mocked. His name was General William Slim. And what he did next is the greatest comeback story World War II never told you. Because he didn't just stop the Japanese. He annihilated them. To understand why Slim was erased, you have to understand how bad things were. This is not the WW2 you learned in school. In Europe, we talk about D-Day. In the Pacific, we talk about Midway. Nobody talks about Burma. But in 1942, Burma was the most important front in the world. Why? Because of one road. The Burma Road. It was the only lifeline keeping China in the war. If Japan cuts it, China collapses. Japan frees up 1 million soldiers, and those soldiers go to fight the Americans in the Pacific. Japan knew this, so they sent their best, their 15th Army, veterans of China, jungle warfare specialists, soldiers who believed surrender was worse than death. Against them, the British had nothing. Let's meet William Slim. In 1942, he is not a famous general. He has no political connections. He didn't go to the fancy military schools. He started as a private soldier, a grunt. He was wounded 3 times in World War I. He speaks fluent Gorkhali because he served with Gurkha soldiers, the fierce Nepalese warriors. And his bosses hate that about him. The British High Command in India was run by aristocrats. Slim was not one of them. He was quiet. He was a reader. He was unfashionably respectful to his Indian and African soldiers at a time when the British Empire still believed in white superiority. So when the Burma front collapsed, they gave him the job because nobody else wanted it. It was a suicide mission. Slim arrives and finds an army that has forgotten how to be an army. He later wrote in his legendary memoir, Defeat into Victory, "We were an army in retreat, and an army in retreat is at its lowest." Disease was rampant. Morale was non-existent. The soldiers believed the Japanese were supermen, that they were unbeatable in the jungle, that they could go anywhere, live off nothing, and would never surrender. Slim knew this was a lie, and lies kill armies. So before he taught them how to fight, he had to teach them how to think. This is what makes Slim a genius, and why modern CEOs still study him. He did 3 things no other Allied general did. 1, he told the truth. Most generals would give a fake, patriotic speech. Slim did the opposite. He gathered every officer and said, "Yes, we got beaten. Badly. The Japanese are tough. But they are not supermen. I have seen them. They are soldiers like you. They get scared. They get sick. They make mistakes. And we're going to learn how to kill them." He ordered that every single Japanese myth had to be destroyed with training. Think the Japanese are invisible in the jungle? Good. We're going to live in the jungle for 3 months. Think they always flank you? Good. We're going to practice flanking them until your boots bleed. He created jungle warfare schools. Not in classrooms. In the actual jungle. He made soldiers live, eat, sleep, patrol in it until the jungle stopped being scary and became home. 2, he fixed the unsexy stuff. History loves Patton with his pearl-handled pistols. Slim was obsessed with diarrhea. In 1942, for every 1 British soldier wounded by the Japanese, 120 were evacuated with malaria, dysentery, and jungle sores. An army that poops itself to death cannot fight. Slim ordered medical officers to have more power than combat officers. He made taking anti-malaria tablets a matter of court-martial. If your unit had high malaria rates, the commander was punished, not the soldier. He built airstrips to evacuate the wounded fast. Result: malaria rates dropped from 70% to under 5%. In 1 year, The soldiers realized, this general actually cares if I live or die. And they would follow him to hell for it. They gave him a new name, Uncle Bill. 3. He built a new army from the forgotten. Slim's army was not the white army you see in Hollywood war movies. It was the 14th Army, called the Forgotten Army, because nobody at home reported on them. It was 1 million men. Indians, Gurkhas, Africans from Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Burmese, British. The most diverse army ever assembled by Britain. While other British generals still treated Indian soldiers as second class, Slim treated them as equals. He learned their languages. He ate their food. He gave Victoria Crosses to men London thought were unworthy. And they became loyal beyond reason. By late 1943, he was ready. The Japanese were coming again. This time, their target was India itself. Operation Yugo. The Japanese planned to invade India and end the British Empire in Asia forever. 70,000 elite Japanese troops marched towards the Indian cities of Imphal and Kohima. If they take them, India falls. Slim was outnumbered. He was cut off. And he had a crazy idea. B-roll. Map of Imphal and Kohima, black and white photos of the battles. He decided not to stop them at the border. Every other general would have met the Japanese at the frontier and tried to hold the line. Slim said, let them in. Let them cross the mountains. Let them stretch their supply lines to breaking point. Let them think they are winning. And then we will encircle them. And we will starve them to death in the jungle. This was insane. To do it, he had to supply his entire army by air. Nothing like that had ever been attempted in history. The Americans, who controlled the airlift, said it was impossible. Slim did it anyway. March 1944. The Battle of Imphal Kohima begins. For 4 months, it is hell on earth. At Kohima, 1,500 British and Indian soldiers are surrounded by 15,000 Japanese on a tiny hill, with a tennis court as the front line. They fight hand-to-hand for 14 days. The tennis court becomes a grave. The supply drop misses, so they fight with no water. At Imphal, 100,000 Allied troops are surrounded. Slim's men are down to half rations. But the Japanese have nothing. They were told they would capture British food. They didn't. They begin to eat grass. Then insects. Then, each other. Slim never panicked. He flew from position to position, calm, steady, with his bush hat and his rifle. By July 1944, the Japanese army disintegrated. They didn't retreat. They died. Of starvation, disease, and relentless attacks. Out of 85,000 Japanese soldiers who marched on India, 53,700 never came back. It was the worst defeat in Japanese military history. Ever. Worse than Hiroshima. Worse than Midway. A Japanese veteran later called it the Road of Death. The Battle of Imphal Kohima was voted by the British National Army Museum as the greatest battle in British history. Greater than Waterloo. Greater than D-Day. You have never heard of it. Why? Because it was fought by brown and black soldiers led by a forgotten general. After Imphal, Slim did what no one thought possible. He chased the Japanese 1,000 miles. He crossed the mighty Irrawaddy River in a maneuver that still baffles military experts. And in March 1945, he smashed them at the Battle of Mandalay. He liberated Burma. He saved India. He reopened the road to China. He destroyed an entire Japanese army group. He won the war in Asia. On land, his victory was decisive. He returned to London a hero. For about 5 minutes. Here is how you erase a man. Reason 1, he made the wrong enemies. His boss was Lord Mountbatten, handsome, royal, media savvy. Mountbatten loved the press. Slim hated it. The American general Vinegar Joe Stilwell hated Slim because Slim was British and successful. The American press loved Stilwell and wrote hit pieces on Slim. History was written by American journalists. Reason 2, he was on the wrong side of empire. In 1947, India became independent. Suddenly, the story of a British general leading a glorious Indian army was awkward. Britain didn't want to talk about its empire anymore. India didn't want to celebrate a British general. So both sides quietly agreed to forget him. Reason 3, he was too decent. Slim never wrote a self-promoting memoir. He never ran for office. He never shouted, "I won." He just wrote a brilliant, humble book called Defeat into Victory and went back to being a soldier. Decent men rarely make headlines. In 1950, when North Korea invaded South Korea, America panicked and asked Britain who could save them. Britain sent Slim. Again, but he was too old. He died in 1970. His funeral was small. No Hollywood movie was ever made about him. While Patton got George C. Scott and an Oscar-winning film, Slim got a forgotten plaque in a London church. Winston Churchill, who knew greatness, said it best. Slim is the only general of World War II who never put a foot wrong. History is not what happened. History is what we choose to remember. We remember the loud generals, the political generals, the movie star generals. We forget the quiet ones who actually did the job. The ones who cared about malaria tablets more than medals. Who learned Gorkali to talk to his soldiers. Who built an army of the forgotten and led them to victory. General William Slim won the war. And we erased him. So let me ask you, what other heroes have we erased? Comment below with a forgotten hero from your country. I read every comment, and I will make the next video on the most upvoted story. If you think Uncle Bill deserves to be remembered, hit the like button. It tells YouTube that his story matters. I'm Zyronix History. See you in the next forgotten chapter of history.